What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Phenomenal day to you, and welcome on into the Men of Vision podcast. I'm your boy, Dwayne Roberts. The Men of Vision podcast is about bringing support to Christian men, help them navigate life challenges by gaining clarity and direction so they can experience a happier and healthier, purposeful lifestyle. I want to say thank you for taking the vital step towards becoming the best version of you. We're talking with Justin Hart, an incredible and inspiring author whose journey is sure to resonate with you. And in 2009, Justin debuted his novel, Liquid Sunshine. It skyrocketed to becoming the #1 inspirational bestseller on Amazon, surpassing the likes of Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer. Fast forward in 2013, he released his first volume of poetry, Life, Love, and God. We're going to unpack that some. And it's found its way in the hands of President Obama and Michelle Obama, as well as the late Maya Angelou and the phenomenal and legendary Nikki Giovanni. But that's not it. In 2021, he took a creative leap into the world of children literature, where he wrote his first book for kids, a financial educational book he called The Three Little Pigs Learning About Money. I think every kid needs that book right there. And this past summer, guys, Justin released his fourth book, his second volume of Life, Love, and God, a poetry collection focusing on self-development, mental health, and personal leadership. Family, help me give a warm virtual welcome to my man, Justin Hart. What's happening, Justin? Welcome on into the...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How you doing, my brother?
Alive and well. Alive and well. Dwayne, I'm enjoying Atlanta right now, and I'm just happy to be on your show, Captain.
That's what's up, my brother. You live out in the ATL, don't you?
This is my home. Yes, sir. Yep. Been here for a while now, and I'll be here for a time in the future. I'm not going nowhere.
And say I'm not going nowhere. I feel you on that right there. So good, man. One, I want to say thank you, brother, for taking time and rocking with us on today's podcast. We truly appreciate it. I got a little history on you, man. I know some things about you. We chopped it up in the past. But listen, introduce yourself to the fellas, man. Let them know who Justin is. How some intricate things about you that we may not know, and how you desire to serve, my friend.
Yes, sir. So I am Justin C. Hart, author, coach, speaker here in the Atlanta area and abroad, of course. I am a father of 3 amazing little kids. Shout out to my offspring, Jada, Jordan, and Jacob. Also, I've been married for over 13 years now to my wife, Jasmine. Hello. So I'm just an overall inspirational individual, and that's because I've been inspired myself to live a higher life, to live a better life. uh Everything that you mentioned in your introduction, as far as like what you represent, as far as the Men of Vision goes, listen, I am right there with you, and I'm grateful to bring in even just my circle of friends, so that they can meet your circle of friends, and we can all just grow. We can just grow as leaders in our communities and abroad. Yes, sir. But I'm from Virginia. I'm from Virginia originally, the Hampton Roads area. I'm from Newport News, the same hometown as Mike Vick and Allen Iverson.
Okay, all right, good stuff, man. Good stuff. I know when we met and talking, you told me you were sharing me that you had written books. I hadn't realized that you've written so many books. Going back on your webpage, kind of learning more about what you do and what you serve, man. A 4-time author. Where does that derive from? Where does you want to be an author derive from?
No, thanks for asking. Me being an author literally was injected in me as a kid. I'm talking maybe 7, 8 years old. I would be in my room as a youngster, and I would just get stories in my head. So I would jot down stories, and I can draw. So I would illustrate the pages on just blank sheets of paper. But whenever you find yourself doing that time and time again as a kid, like that's what you just did recreationally. Um, it just sticks with you, you know? So I ended up getting into my teenage years. I found myself still writing stories, still drawing. Of course, it expanded to writing rhymes, of course, you know, battling friends, and those rhymes turned into poems. And yeah, and then as a young adult, I ended up going through some relational drama in college, and I was like, man, this is crazy. I should write about it. And lo and behold, I started to like journal that relationship, and man, I would not have anticipated that me journaling that experience would turn into a full-blown fictional novel that I was able to expound on, which became my testimony. Yep, so I was able to testify in that Liquid Sunshine season, and by God's grace, it hit #1 inspirational bestseller on Amazon as my debut. So yeah, it's in me. It's in me, and I have many more to write, Dwayne. I really do. I'm thinking maybe like 12 or 15 more books to go.
Man, that's incredible. What I hear is a man with a vision, a man with a plan. So many men are challenging both those areas. One, having a vision for their life, but more importantly, putting a plan to what they want to be able to do. And just the mere fact that you identified that, hey, there's 12 more in me, bro. I'm still trying to get #1 out. You know, but I want to go back to the inspiration behind the Liquid Sunshine, man. Um, and did you just expect it to be such a huge success?
Oh man. You know, I try not to put expectations on things, so I'd probably say no. I just knew that what I experienced not only was impactful for me, but I knew if I shared it, because I had a choice. I said, if I keep it to myself, I will just know I had a crazy experience in college. But if I'm able to creatively write it and retell it, then who knows how many people it can impact, men and women. So it was a decision. I said, let me write my story. And that's when person after person would tell me, man, chapter 1, oh man, chapter 5. And I'm like, really? You like it that much? It's like, man, I zoomed through your book. I'm like, wow. So yeah, whenever you start hearing feedback, that's when you know. And it's not just one or two or three or four or five different people. It's multiple people from all different walks, the men, the women, the young, the older. It's like, listen, I got something here.
Yeah, that's good. What? So, give us a little backstory. I mean, not backstory, but give us a little detail about Liquid Sunshine. What is it about? And some of the inspiration behind writing it, and what do you think is probably one of the things that most people are resonating with the book?
Right. Yeah. I would say that it's about a love triangle, all right? So Liquid Sunshine is a story about life, love, and finding the will of God, you know, which tie into my poetry books, of course. So um this was maybe '03, '04 is the timeline of this story, but I was able to take it and experience it from a college campus perspective. So
Unlock your true potential with the Leadership Community, where we empower men to embrace self awareness and authenticity. Introducing the Leadership Community, where we believe in helping men become the best version of themselves. It all starts with self awareness, and we encourage men to take a step back, pause, and reflect on their thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Embrace their authenticity and break free from societal expectations. Here are just a few testimonies from individuals. Leadership helped me develop self-awareness and embrace my authentic self. And now I feel more confident and fulfilled. Question: are you ready to unlock your potential? If so, join the Leadership Community today.
anybody that's been on a college campus or has even gone through college in general at a university or wherever you might have gone, you know that there's a lot that can happen. So I was able to, yeah, fictionalize myself as one of the characters, and then there's two other main characters. There's my girlfriend, and then there is her best friend, which happens to be a male. And let me tell you, Dwayne, a triangle type of relationship is not the way to go. But that's what it was. I was in a relationship with her, and she had a male best friend. And man, if you want to read about drama and how God can use somebody during something like that, man, my hand is raised. My hand is raised. So, but it touches a lot on how to keep God first, because I had been baptized right before that season had started, and I was walking with the Lord. So, in order to walk with the Lord, and then you get hit with a season where you're like, man, I'm not expecting this, Lord. I need you. And then you find yourself making an idol out of the relationship that He brings to you. And then you say,
Mm,
wait a minute. This is more than just me getting a relationship. This is a test.
yeah.
Lord, am I going to pass this test? And you
Mm,
feel every day in and out as a test. Is it like Justin, I'm testing you. I'm testing your faith. I'm testing your trust in me. And it's like, wow. But I'll say this. It wasn't until the very end of that season, of that relationship, where I was able to say, you know what, Lord? Wow, now I have a full hindsight of what I was given, and this is the fullness of that story. And I was able to write it so well in a book form that usually whenever we go through things in life, it does take hindsight to say, man, if it wasn't for me going through this, this, and this, I wouldn't be the man of God I am today. I wouldn't be the leader that I am today. I wouldn't be the follower
come
of
on.
Christ that I am today. But it's hard to, when you're going through it though, it ain't fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That, and it makes sense. And I know it's not. Oh, so good, so rich. I want to unpack that, but I'm not. I'm gonna let that sit right where that. Let it marinate on the mind of people right this minute. Because my next follow up question for you is the poetry collection, Life, Love, and God. It reached remarkable, it reached some remarkable individuals, the likes of President Obama, Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, yeah, in memory, loving memory of Maya Angelou,
Yeah.
and Nikki Giovanni. Listen, talk to me. Tell me, what does it feel like to have your literature, or what is it? Yeah, what is it meant to you that your literature winds up in the hand of some of the greatest?
Jeez, the greatest. You said it. You said it, Dwayne. Listen, me even just being on your podcast right now is a humbling experience. So number one, thank you again for even me just being a part of what you have going on. So for me to be connected or even tied to their names, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. I try to watch idolatry and idols and how I view people in general, but I honor people. I give respect where respect is due, and I'm grateful that my book was able to get into their hands, because I don't take stuff like that for granted. I don't. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm
that's good.
humbled every day.
I mean, I want to go back because I said this earlier. A couple things that I believe men struggle with: vision, and having a plan, and let alone executing. In this place of getting your books in the hands of President Obama, Maya Angelou, and Nikki Giovanni, what was that like? Like, what did it take? What was that push look like, or did it just happen organically? What was that like for you?
Yeah, well, back in 2013 was when that particular volume one was released. And for President Obama to be in office was a special thing during that time frame, whether it was a certain pieces that I was writing within that book. But I just knew, I was like, man, if I can just get it to the White House, if I can just get it to his staff, if I can just get it into his hands. So during that time frame, I knew that Maya Angelou, she was still alive. I think she didn't pass
Mhm,
until years later. And Nikki
mhm,
Giovanni, she is in Virginia now. So I was like, listen, there's certain people that I respect, and there's a long list of other people that I ended up reaching out to and seeing, how I could get them a copy. And man, whenever I was able to get a response back that all three of those individuals not only received the book, but they said thank you for the book. Thank you for life, love, and God, Justin. It's been a blessing. And I'm like, wow, they received it. So it's still a really cool story to tell. And one day, whenever I get a chance to hopefully meet Michelle, I know she comes to Atlanta quite often, or if I meet Mr. Obama, I definitely want to shake their hand and let them know what that means to me personally, face to face.
Yeah, that's good. And what I hear too, I hear there was an act of intentionality along with that vision, along with that plan, and executing on it. There was some like a strategic move almost. Like how do I get this in their hands? I love that, and I think that's just an aspect that men need to hear to get them moving, get out of what's comfortable. Because it's easy to sit with your book on your lap or your bookshelf and look at it, but when you have the desire to put it in the hands of people, showing people one who you are grateful of
Mhm.
connecting with, or and showing appreciation to them. One best way is just to share what you have, and I think that's a beautiful thing, man. Many men
Take
don't do that, so
initiative.
I want to
Take
support that.
initiative. Yes, sir.
Yep. Take initiative. All right, my brother. I want to transition. I know, and I want to highlight something. And I know you mentioned the word, and it's trauma.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how did Justin get from where he was to where he is now? What was some of the trauma experiences that you went through, and how do you think it may help men navigate their experiences?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, that's such an important word. It's such a word, the trauma word. It's man, it runs deep. We're gonna need about 3 or 4 sessions to really unpack.
Okay.
But I'll say it like this, all right? There's two forms of trauma, all right? It's almost like I'm talking to the heartbroken and I'm talking to those that break hearts. So I'm talking to the heartbreakers and the heartbroken right now. There's something interesting about um doing something, saying something that affects someone else to the point where it brings trauma onto their life. And we've learned that hurt people hurt people. So it's almost like it's an ongoing thing that is generational, scripturally speaking, but at the same time, you're passing it on. It's something that gets passed on. All right. Whether you're knowingly doing it or not, it's something that gets passed on. That's one aspect of trauma. And there's a long list of things that are considered trauma. But then there's another side. There's the reception side of trauma. All right. Um, and I think when people receive trauma, that definitely affects mental health. It affects physical health. It affects a long list of other things. It affects spiritual health, emotional health, you name it. Um, right now I'm becoming an advocate with this new Life Loving God book because mental health, as you know, it's in a state right now where, man, it's not just it's not just a female thing, it's a male thing. And male leaders go through it all the time, whether it is on one of or both of those aspects, whether you have committed it or if you have received it. And my goal is literally to talk about it through writing. All right. So, as a mental health poet, one of the things I want to encourage is for not just for people to read specific topic based poetry that could literally be a healing agent for mental health. All right. I encourage reading in general, but anybody that's gone through anything traumatic, please look up specifically in your area of concern poetry that is tied to your subject matter of mental health that you're looking to either cope with, overcome, or heal from. But then there's another side of that, Dwayne. The other side I want to talk about is encouraging people to write. So there's the reading side of the poetry, but I encourage others to write poetry. If you've been infected any way, whether that's through trauma, whether that is through all the different mental health issues, the anxiety, the stressors, the depression, uh, PTSD, you name it, I encourage you to write it out. Use your creative writing skills that I believe God has given all of us and put words onto paper because it's therapeutic. So that's the one thing I would say about trauma. That's one of the things that I personally do, and I'm grateful for it, is that I vent often, often, Dwayne,
That's
through
good.
written word and through also reading specific topics on poetry that others have written, where I'm like, wow, they might have gone through it even worse than whatever I've experienced, you know. So it's good to relate in that aspect of what other people have gone through in your same shoes.
Absolutely. That's so good. And you mentioned this earlier too, even going through the experience you went through in college. It was that journaling for you. I think it's power in that.
Mm,
Um, and it can be difficult for men because we don't, with this thing called toxic masculinity, we have a broken outlook on what it looks like to be a masculine man. And oftentimes just to hear you say to men, hey, let's journal, let's write. Somebody's like, man, what are you talking about? I'm not gonna sit down and write, or I'm not gonna journal it. The the I guess the verbiage may sound like I don't know, maybe in some sense of the word weak, but I
mhm.
think there's power. There's power in being able to put your vision to words because so many men are in this place. You wonder why you stuck because it's something in your head, you see it, but you don't know how to articulate it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I'm here to blast apart all aspects of it being weak, because whenever you look at um the let's take the music industry for instance. Some of the best writers in the rap game write, and they write and they write and they write, and they're able to take thoughts, and they're able to somehow get it through their arms, through their heart, through their being onto the page. I encourage people because some of those rappers have gone through some of the most traumatic experiences, which end up on albums, you know. So man, listen, man, yeah, we as men have to get rid of that whole stigma of, man, I don't want to journal, I don't want to write my words and my thoughts and my emotions on paper. Do it.
What if somebody,
Yeah, what if somebody
just
reads it?
I don't want to see. I don't want nobody to see it. Think about. I'm chuckling at that because I was that dude. I was the dude that didn't want
Uh,
to journal. So much so, Justin, check it out. So much so, as a speaker, right? I like to pride myself to memorize my speech, right?
mhm,
And oftentimes I don't. In the beginning I didn't write out my speech, but what I found for myself in this place of journaling and writing out your thoughts was that when I began to write them out, it began to give me clarity. It really helped me paint the picture for what I wanted for my life. And I think that's what I hear from you when you say, hey, listen, this place where I was, I had to write, I had to journal, I had to get my thoughts clear about what I thought and what I felt. Not only that, but I wanted to make an impact. And the impact that I wanted to make was a book, a poetry book, to really help people navigate this space. And so just taking maybe quotes that you read from other people or quotes that you created yourself and
mhm.
giving them life, man, I think that's phenomenal, and it's something that I'm gonna have to admit, brother, I would think I'm gonna have to tap into a little bit more in my on my own end. While I write out my topics when I'm speaking, I don't
Mhm.
often journal thoughts.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Even if it's week, even if it's a once a week, hey, this is a summary of my week. This is even if it's monthly, like August 1st, September 1st, like the first of the month, let me just take some time on my lunch break or on whatever went right before bed. Let me just say this is how my month went. Um Back in the day, back whenever I was a youngster, man, middle school, that's whenever I first was given a journal. And I remember playing recreational sports, and I would recap how the season went, playing basketball, playing X, Y, and Z. And I'd be like, game one, I started at, my shooting guard position, this is the name of my team. And I'm just like, we're talking like 12 years old. And I can go back to those journals and read about summers that happened way back then. Christmas and birthdays. I have it all written out. And I'm just like, man, I don't know how I got introduced to journals. It was probably my parents. I'm pretty sure they put one in my hand. But I'm so grateful because here I am in my 40s and now I'm an advocate, right?
I love it, man. I love it. And in this place of mental health, man, so many men, so many stigmas, but so many men hide behind thinking they have to be something that they're not. And gaining that clarity and just being authentically who you are is key. And that's what I hear from you. I'm just who I am. This is some things that I learned throughout my lifestyle, and this is what works for me, and I'm comfortable with that. And I think men need to hear that from other men, that I'm just comfortable being who I am, without dressing it up or hiding what I enjoy doing. I love that,
Mhm,
bro. Now,
mhm.
now I know they got some other things on your heart you want to chime in and talk to men about. Um, and I want you to unpack. I want you to talk to the hearts of men, and that is sharing about life, love, and God. Let's let's
Oh,
talk to the hearts of men, my brother.
yes, sir. Well, hey, man, let me tell you, these bad boys right here, volume one and volume two, mean the world to me because every decade that goes by, my goal is to write a new volume. And for me to have two, promise you, the Lord willing, I will have collection 3, 4, and 5. And I got my crew on the front cover, and that's the goal, is to have my family on the front cover of all of them. What I've learned about those three words, Dwayne, life, love, and God, is that it's the greatest cluster of words that I personally have ever experienced. Um, when we live life without all three being together, we get impacted. All right. Here's an example, because I know trauma will do this. Trauma will try to separate those three words from staying a unit. All right. So we can have love and we can have life, but let's say we experienced a God trauma, you know,
Mm,
and we're like, man, I don't know about this whole God thing. So now God is now out of the picture. Or
mm,
let's say you love God. Let's say you love God and you're living life, but you had a love trauma, right? And I was like, man, I don't know about my next relationship, man. I think I don't even know about these girls anymore, man. They're crazy. I'm just gonna do my own thing. Like you're removing love from the life and the God. And then you have it where you can have a life trauma. Well, life just hits you and knocks you off your feet. And so you're still loving people, you're loving God, but you're at home every day. You're like, nah, I don't really have much of a purpose. I'm not really that adventurous. I don't really want to do much. So I'm just gonna stay home. I'm just gonna let me just watch TV. Let me just do my thing. Let me play video games. It's like, no, there's a life for you to live. There's people for you to love. And listen, we gotta tie God to it all. God is the purpose to the life and to the love. And he wants to be in it. He wants his name tied to everything we do, with the name of love tied to it and with the name of life tied to it. So that when life, love, and God are all combined, we're living a very fulfilled life. God is the reason why we're living that life. And it's a fulfilling, very purposeful, very intentional thing. And my heart goes out to those that have experienced trauma or hardship in life, in love, and in God, because it's very real. And I think we all need to talk about it more than what we do. There is God trauma, there is love trauma, and then there is life trauma. And if you don't bring healing to those areas and find forgiveness or find understanding to move forward, it's very easy for those three words to not be the oneness of a cluster that God originally designed it to be. So I want to share that with all the guys listening. Those three words, fellas, those three words, keep them together. keep them together and live a very fulfilled life.
So good, so good. But you said this, and you said there's a life trauma, there's a love trauma, and there may be a trauma with God, and I know people, we all have different experiences. What was your life trauma? Well, I think we identified the love trauma being in college. And if there was something else, I'm curious to know too. Was
Mhm.
there another love trauma in life? And was there a trauma with connecting with God? Was there some sort of trauma that you experienced in your life? Was there a life, love, and God trauma in your own life? And what did that look like?
Yeah, yeah, and it expresses itself in poetry, man. Yes, it does. Thank you for asking. Um, as mentioned, there's two different types of trauma. So, by God's grace, I was not, and I never planned to be the one who's breaking hearts. I don't want to be that guy where I'm causing trauma on someone else. And fellas, I hope you take that vow where you say, that ain't me. Lord, I'm here to do your work. I don't want to bring trauma on anybody's life because, man, that thing is impactful. So I'm the recipient of trauma. Um, by God's grace, and I say this truthfully and honestly, I didn't receive actual trauma until my 40s hit. So my childhood was great. I had two parents in the home. Dad was there, mom was there, and which is already rare. So I had a very good adolescence. College kind of hit and kind of shook me up a little bit, but I was able to overcome that. You feel free to check out Liquid Sunshine because it's worth the read. Um, but it was more drama than trauma. Okay, but
Okay,
man,
okay,
marital trauma will do it. Marital trauma will do it, and that concatenates the life, the love, and the God because being a praying man. I put God in everything. I put God in my own personal life, the decisions I make. I put him in my family, pray over my wife, pray over my kids, pray protection over everybody. So for marital trauma to happen and for me to be impacted, it's almost like, all right, Lord, how am I going to overcome this? Because I need you. So the same things I was praying for is the same things that I'm like, well, how I've prayed for this. Like how come these things haven't been answered? So it's almost like when our prayers don't get answered, that can be a hit on not just how we see God and how we view God, but now it opens up all the questions as to the whys and the hows and the whens and the wheres and what did I do wrong? How come this prayer didn't get answered? How did this one fall through the cracks? And it's just like it's the most incredible thing to receive a trauma in all three areas at the same time. At the same time. And whenever people ask me how my 40s have been, I'm like, man, listen, my 40s have been probably the worst decade of all four of my decades, and I just started my 40s. It is just like, no, I'm trying to enjoy my 40s. So to start out with trauma, man, it's like, man, I unless things get turned around, listen, the 40s are gonna go down as one of the most impactful decades of my life. And hands down it's already number one. So that's what I would say about that. Yeah, that's the trauma. It is all three.
so three. I like that. I like what you said too. I didn't experience trauma until I was about 40. I think that's about right. Depending on how you grew up, I think that's about right. I think that's probably more so when you start really recognizing the experiences you're going through.
Yeah.
In this place. For me, when I think back, I'm what, 50 plus right now. So when I think back 10, 13, yeah, let's go back 13 years ago. There was my roughest years. There was trauma. There was marital trauma. You know, during I think that, yeah, about that time for me. I was facing a 3-year felony conviction. You know,
Hmm.
I remember sitting on my back porch trying to figure life out. I remember feeling like I wasn't a good enough man or husband that I needed to be. I heard you say this was I'm not the type of dude that want to inflict that pain or hurt on people, you know. And I think sometimes we don't consider as men the trauma we inflict on other people because of our actions or decision making as men. And so when I think about being 40, so many men right now in this place and where they just trying to figure life out. What would you say to that man right now who might be experiencing some trauma in their marriage, trying to figure out how to navigate that space?
Oh man, listen. Woo! Loaded question. Best answer I can give is um I'll share it like this. I have one of the pieces that I wrote in this volume 2 of Poetry, Life, Love, and God, and it's called A Note to Myself. Okay. So and it's under the God portion. So in my poetry, I have 3 sections. I have a life portion, a love portion, and a God portion, where I'm able to differentiate and almost categorize the poetry. All right. So in the God portion, I have a note to myself. And one of the things I tell myself is to have prayer and scripture as your two biggest main I guess things that you embrace pretty much. So what's cool about a note to yourself, it was my future self writing to me in the present tense. And I'm asking him questions and I'm saying, hey, since you know everything that I'm going to experience, what can you tell me? And he says, listen, man, like the only thing I'm going to give you, I'm not going to be your fortune teller. I'm not going to be your 8 ball. I'm not going to tell you your future at all. Only thing I'm going to give you is prayer and scripture. And I'm like, the more I think about that poem, that's the same thing I want to give to other guys. I want to let them know that scripture is going to be your main go-to. Find some scripture that is able to be embraced, be something that you can memorize. Let it be in your heart and say, hey, Matthew 5:45, I already know what it says. I already know what it means to me. I'm going to make sure that it's going to be something that's tied to my life that I can always remember. I'm going to make sure that scripturally I'm going to find truth in these words, and I'm going to make sure that prayers are going to be the same prayers I pray over my life and I pray for other brothers also. And that's what I'm going to share. If anybody's going through it, if you're going through that hot seat right now, listen, I personally send prayers and scripture your way.
So good, so good. I love it. The greatest cluster of words from Justin Hart. He says, prayer and scriptures, whatever you're going through, make that note to self, and gravitate to this place of getting a hold of what God has to say about you to you. So good, Justin. That's how I typically would round that out for us, brother. Well, listen, man, I know your time is precious. This has been great. I really enjoyed this conversation. However, for men, to get hold of your book, um, Liquid Sunshine, Life, Love, and God, volumes 1 and 2. The Three Little Pigs, Learning About Money. Share a little bit more where they can find your books. Share where they can follow you on social media as well as your webpage, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep. Feel free to Google me. You can Google author Justin C. Hart. You can find me on my website at justinhartnovels.com. You can check out different videos there. You can see all that I'm about. There's different blurbs about myself, about the services that I offer. Like I mentioned, I'm an author coach as well. I'm a public speaker. I enjoy what I do. I've talked to a lot of youth, a lot of young adults, and a lot of adults. I'm on Twitter, JustinHart82. I'm on Instagram, JustinHart82. I'm on YouTube. Feel free to check me out. I'm also a DJ here in the Atlanta area. That's one of the things that I enjoy doing in my free time. You guys can check out my YouTube channel, J Hart Productions 757 as well.
And DJ and two guys, listen, go find out what Justin is. Go find out what Justin is doing. Go check him out. at www.justinhartnovels.com. Go check it out. Justin Hart 82 on Instagram. Go over to the YouTube page. Check out how he's spinning on the ones and twos, man. Justin, phenomenal time, man. Thank you for taking time and rocking with us today on the Men of Vision podcast. Listen, guys, I'm your boy, Dwayne Roberts. And as you always hear me say, realize this, that you have everything you need to take your life to the next level. That's simply because your success is in your hands. Go ahead, share the feed, tag a friend, and we'll see you next week for a new episode on the Men of Vision podcast. God bless, bruh.
Yes,
Good
sir.
stuff.